The three alien trainees stepped off the transport shuttle and immediately felt the crushing weight of Earth's gravity. Earth was classified as Deathworld DW3429 in the Galactic Federation database for good reason. The atmospheric pressure, the gravity, the wide range of temperatures and the abundance of predators made it a planet most species avoided. Yet humans not only survived here, but thrived. Zixtral's gills fluttered nervously beneath his breathing collar. As an Aqualian, his blue amphibious body was used to the gentle pressure of his homeworld's oceans, not this dry, heavy air. Beside him, Nevri's insectoid antennae twitched constantly, sampling the overwhelming flood of new scents. Her exoskeleton clicked softly as she shifted her forearms into a formal greeting position. The third trainee, Klondar, moved with deliberate care. His crystalline body refracted the morning sunlight into small rainbows on the landing pad. Petrosians were durable but brittle in high gravity. "Welcome to Earth Embassy Station," called a cheerful human voice. The aliens turned to see a human, female walking toward them. She wore the blue uniform of the diplomatic corps with 3 silver bars on her shoulder, marking her as an instructor. "I am Olivia Martinez, your primary human cultural liaison for the next 60 days, she said with a smile. "You must be the new diplomatic trainees." Zixtral stepped forward, his translator collar glowing softly. "Greetings, Instructor Martinez. We are honored to be selected for this program." The human nodded, then lifted a small container to her mouth and swallowed some dark liquid. The aliens watched with curiosity as she let out a satisfied sigh. "Forgive my rudeness," Olivia said, noticing their stares. "I haven't finished my morning coffee yet. This is already my 4th cup today, and I'll probably need another before our orientation begins." Nevri's antennae shot straight up in alarm. "4th cup? Is this some form of medicine you must take in multiple doses?" Olivia laughed. "No, it's just coffee. It helps humans wake up and focus." She held out the container. "Would you like to try some?" Klondar's crystalline form vibrated slightly, producing a sound like distant wind chimes, the Petrosian equivalent of nervous laughter. "If it is your 4th dose of the substance this morning alone, perhaps it would be unsafe for our first exposure." Olivia looked confused for a moment before understanding dawned on her face. "Oh, you think it's some kind of powerful drug? I guess it is, technically. Coffee contains caffeine, which is a stimulant, but it's very mild for humans. We drink it for pleasure as much as for the energy boost." The 3 aliens exchanged concerned glances. Their briefing materials on human biology had emphasized that Earth creatures had evolved remarkable resistance to toxins compared to most galactic species. What humans considered mild could be devastating to other life forms. "Come on," Olivia said, gesturing toward the main building. "We have a welcome breakfast prepared. You can observe humans and coffee in their natural habitat." The trainees followed her across the landing pad toward a large dome-shaped building. As they walked, they observed dozens of humans rushing about their morning duties. Many carried similar containers of the dark liquid. Through the large windows, they could see a room where humans gathered around machines that hissed and gurgled, producing streams of the mysterious coffee into waiting cups. The line of humans waiting for these machines stretched across the room. "Is there some shortage of this substance?" asked Zixtral, noting the long queues. Olivia shook her head. "No, we have plenty. Everyone just wants their coffee at the same time each morning." As they entered the building, the rich, bitter smell of fresh coffee hit the aliens' various sensory organs at once. Nevri's antennae curled reflexively. "That aroma is quite potent," she observed. "Isn't it wonderful?" Olivia replied with genuine enthusiasm. "Nothing beats the smell of fresh coffee in the morning. Trust me, by the end of your training, you'll understand why humans can't live without it." The 3 alien trainees looked skeptically at each other. They had come to learn about human diplomacy, not human addictions. Little did they know that on Earth, the two were often inseparable. The mess hall of Earth Embassy Station buzzed with morning activity. Zixtral, Nevri, and Klondar sat at a corner table, watching the humans with careful attention. Their first day of observation had begun, and already they were puzzled by what they saw. "Note how they shuffle in," whispered Nevri, her compound eyes tracking the steady stream of humans entering the hall. They appear almost ill or injured. She was right. The humans who entered the mess hall moved slowly. Many had dark circles under their eyes. Some yawned widely, showing their flat teeth. Others rubbed their faces or stared blankly ahead. Perhaps this is why they need the coffee stimulant, suggested Klondar. Light rippled through his crystalline form as he shifted to get a better view. Their species may require chemical assistance to function in the morning hours. Their attention fixed on a tall human male who trudged into the room. The 3 silver stars on his uniform collar marked him as someone important. "That is Commander Alan Wright," said Zixtral, recalling the station personnel files they had studied. "He oversees all diplomatic operations here." Commander Wright moved directly to a large, complex machine that hissed and steamed. He pressed several buttons without speaking to anyone. The other humans in line stepped aside respectfully, allowing him immediate access. "Interesting," said Klondar. "Social hierarchy appears suspended during this coffee ritual." The commander held a large cup beneath the machine's spout. Dark liquid poured out, filling the room with its rich smell. Wright lifted the cup to his nose, inhaled deeply, then took a long drink. His eyes closed briefly. When they opened again, the aliens noticed an immediate change. The commander stood straighter. His eyes became clearer and more alert. He nodded at several crew members and even smiled as he walked to his table, now moving with purpose and energy. "The transformation is remarkable," said Zixtral. "It is like watching a different person emerge." More crew members filed in. A female, human in a science division uniform, approached the coffee machine. Her name tag read, Lieutenant Grace Powell. Her fingers moved with practiced skill across the machine's controls, adjusting settings with careful precision despite her half-closed eyes. "They operate complex machinery while still in this impaired state," observed Nevri. "This suggests the morning ritual is so deeply ingrained that they can perform it without full consciousness." The 3 aliens watched as Lieutenant Powell crafted what appeared to be a more complex coffee variation. She added white liquid, sweet crystals, and a sprinkle of brown powder to her cup. She stirred it carefully before taking a sip and letting out a satisfied sigh. "Their devotion to this substance goes beyond simple consumption," said Klondar. "They customize it in countless ways. This indicates a cultural significance beyond its stimulant properties." Zixtral's medical scanner hummed softly as he discreetly aimed it at the growing crowd of coffee drinkers. The data made his fins flutter with concern. "Their heart rates increased by 20% after consumption," he reported quietly. "Body temperature rises slightly. Neural activity spikes, particularly in areas related to alertness and focus." "Are they poisoning themselves?" asked Nevri, her antennae twitching anxiously. "Not exactly," said Zixtral. "Their bodies appear adapted to the stimulus. But according to these readings, there are withdrawal markers in those who have not yet consumed the coffee. Their systems expect and depend on this substance." Olivia Martinez appeared beside their table, startling the aliens with her silent approach. She carried 2 cups of coffee and smiled warmly at them. "How's the observation going?" she asked. "Most educational," replied Klondar politely. "We noticed significant behavioral changes before and after coffee consumption." Olivia laughed. "Oh, you have no idea. Never get between a human and their morning coffee. It's rule number 1 of interspecies diplomacy." "We are curious," said Nevri carefully. "Is this substance addictive to humans?" Olivia took a long sip before answering. "We prefer the term essential life requirement. Day 1 lesson, my friends. Diplomatic meetings before 0900 hours must always include coffee service, or negotiations will fail before they begin." The aliens exchanged worried glances. If the first lesson of human diplomacy involved chemical dependency, what other surprises awaited them in the coming weeks? Klondar bent over the research terminal in the station's science lab. His crystalline fingers tapped rapidly on the keyboard as he searched through Earth's biological databases. After 3 days of watching humans consume coffee in massive quantities, the Petrosian trainee had decided to learn more about this strange substance. Nevri and Zixtral stood behind him, watching the screen fill with chemical diagrams and biological information. "What have you found?" asked Zixtral. His gills fluttered anxiously beneath his breathing collar. "Disturbing information," said Klondar. His body emitted a faint chiming sound, indicating concern. "This caffeine compound in coffee is classified as a methylxanthine alkaloid. In simple terms, it is a natural pesticide." "A pesticide?" Nevri's antennae shot straight up in alarm. "You mean poison?" "Precisely," said Klondar. "The coffee plant evolved this chemical specifically to kill insects that tried to eat its seeds. It targets the nervous system." The three aliens stared at each other in horror. Nevri's four hands clasped together nervously. "But humans drink it on purpose?" she asked. "They deliberately consume a neurotoxin?" "Not only that," said Klondar, scrolling to display more data. "They have cultivated this plant for centuries, specifically breeding varieties with higher toxin levels for stronger effects." Zixtral's blue skin paled to a lighter shade. "We must inform Instructor Martinez immediately. Perhaps humans do not understand what they are doing to themselves." The door to the lab slid open, and Jack Nelson walked in. The young human male worked as the station's science officer. He smiled when he saw the aliens. "Hey there, how's the research going?" He carried a large mug with the words, "Don't talk to me until this is empty," printed on it. Steam rose from the dark liquid inside. "Officer Nelson," said Klondar, his voice vibrating with concern. "We have made a disturbing discovery about coffee." Jack took a long sip from his mug and raised his eyebrows. "Oh, what's that?" "It contains a deadly pesticide," said Nevri, her voice rising slightly. "A neurotoxin designed to kill insects by attacking their nervous systems." To their surprise, Jack laughed. He pulled up a chair and sat down beside them. "You're absolutely right," he said. "Caffeine is a natural insecticide. Pretty effective one, too." "But you consume it willingly?" asked Zixtral. "Sure do." Jack took another drink. "This is actually my special blend. Extra strong, with beans from 3 different regions. I roast them myself." Klondar's crystals shifted colors in confusion. "You process this poison as a hobby? Humans across your planet consume different varieties of this toxin?" asked Nevri. "And compare them for enjoyment?" "Exactly." Jack smiled broadly. "We have countless ways to prepare it. Different brewing methods, different beans from different regions. Some people prefer it with milk and sugar, others black. There are entire cultures built around coffee preparation and consumption." "But why?" asked Zixtral. "Why deliberately expose yourselves to a toxic substance?" Jack thought for a moment. "Well, what's toxic to insects isn't nearly as potent to humans. Our bodies can handle it. Sure, it speeds up our heart rate and stimulates our nervous system, but that's why we like it. It helps us focus, stay alert." "So humans intentionally consume toxins that would kill other species," said Klondar slowly. "And your bodies have adapted to not only survive but benefit from them." "Pretty much," said Jack. "Coffee's not the only example. Chocolate has theobromine, which is deadly to some animals but a treat for us. Many of our spices evolved as plant defenses. Capsaicin in hot peppers, for instance. It's meant to cause pain, but we use it to season food." The aliens exchanged glances of new understanding. "This explains much about human resilience," said Zixtral. "Your species routinely consumes compounds that would kill others, simply for pleasure. Deathworld species, remember?" Jack winked and drained his mug. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need a refill before my next shift. Feel free to keep researching. Our databases are open to diplomatic trainees." As Jack left, the 3 aliens looked at each other with newfound respect and fear for their human hosts. "Perhaps," said Nevri quietly, "the classification of Earth as a death world refers not just to the planet, but to its dominant species as well." 1 week into their training program, the alien trainees received formal invitations to observe their first diplomatic meeting. The event would bring together human representatives and delegates from 3 different solar systems. "This is an excellent opportunity to see practical diplomacy," said Olivia Martinez as she handed them visitor badges. "Remember to observe quietly. and take notes on the negotiation techniques. The meeting room was large and elegant. A long wooden table stood in the center, surrounded by comfortable chairs. Large windows offered views of Earth's blue oceans and swirling white clouds. But what caught the aliens' attention was a separate table against one wall, covered with an elaborate array of equipment and supplies. "What is that setup?" asked Zixtral. "The coffee station," said Olivia. "No diplomatic meeting happens without one." The aliens watched as embassy staff arranged various containers, cups, and machines with careful precision. There were 3 different brewing devices, a collection of sweeteners, and containers of white liquid. "Why so many options?" asked Klondar. "Different species have different tastes," explained Olivia. "Even among humans, preferences vary widely. Ambassador Miller believes that finding the right coffee for each delegate builds rapport." On cue, Ambassador Susan Miller entered the room. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and a confident stride. She nodded to the trainees before inspecting the coffee station carefully. "Is the Centaurian blend ready?" she asked an aide. "The Arcturus. Delegation specifically requested it last time." Soon, delegates began to arrive. Humans greeted their alien counterparts with handshakes and smiles. The 3 trainee observers sat in the corner, taking careful notes as the meeting began. But their attention kept drifting to the coffee rituals taking place. Ambassador Miller opened the meeting with formal welcomes. Then, before any business began, she invited everyone to enjoy refreshments. The human delegates moved immediately to the coffee station. "Note how they begin negotiations only after coffee is served," whispered Nevri, her antennae twitching with interest. Most fascinating was how Ambassador Miller used coffee as a tool of diplomacy. With each delegate, she discussed their preference and suggested options. "Captain Valara, I remember you enjoyed our dark roast last visit," she said to a tall, silver-skinned alien. "We've prepared it fresh for you, or you might try this new blend from our South American region." The silver alien seemed pleased by this attention to detail. When negotiations began moments later, she was noticeably more receptive to human proposals. "The coffee ritual creates social bonds," observed Zixtral. "It establishes common ground before difficult discussions." For 2 hours, the delegates discussed trade routes and resource sharing. The trainees noticed that whenever tensions rose, someone would suggest a short break. During these pauses, delegates would return to the coffee station, and conversations would shift to casual topics, often about the coffee itself. "These beans are grown at high altitude," explained one human diplomat to his non-human counterpart. "That's what gives it that distinctive flavor." "Fascinating," replied the alien delegate, sipping cautiously. "On my world, we have a similar ritual beverage made from fermented root bark." This exchange led to a friendly discussion of cultural practices, and when negotiations resumed, both parties seemed more flexible. Near the meeting's end, something unexpected happened. The power briefly flickered, causing the coffee machines to shut down. Ambassador Miller looked momentarily alarmed. When an aide whispered that the machines couldn't be restarted quickly, her expression grew serious. "Delegates, I suggest we pause our final decisions until tomorrow morning," she announced smoothly. "We've made excellent progress, but these matters deserve fresh consideration." Later, as they walked back to their quarters, Nevri asked, "Was the meeting truly ended because the coffee supply was interrupted?" Olivia smiled. "Ambassador Miller has a strict rule: never finalize agreements when the coffee runs out. She says it leads to poor decisions. So human diplomacy depends on continuous access to this stimulant?" asked Klondar, crystals chiming in surprise. "More than you realize," replied Olivia. "In diplomatic circles we have a saying, peace talks run on coffee, not just goodwill." The alien trainees shared knowing looks. They were beginning to understand that coffee wasn't just a beverage, it was a cornerstone of human civilization. 2 weeks into their training program, the alien trainees were invited to visit the station's botany section. This area was rarely open to visitors, but Olivia had arranged special access as part of their cultural education. The botany section was a large dome filled with plants from Earth and various human colonies. Bright lights mimicked sunlight, and the air was warm and humid. The smell of soil and green things filled the space. "This is where we grow fresh food for the station," explained Olivia as she led them through rows of vegetables and fruit trees. "And over here is our special section." She guided them toward a separate area cordoned off with a clear barrier. Inside were several small trees with shiny dark green leaves. Red berries grew in clusters on their branches. "Coffee plants," said Olivia proudly. "We maintain 17 varieties here. It's part of our Botanical Heritage Preservation Program." Thin man with dirt-stained hands approached them. He wore the green uniform of the station's science division with a small plant symbol on his shoulder. "This is Keith Rogers, our head botanist," said Olivia. "Keith, these are the diplomatic trainees I told you about." Keith nodded politely to the aliens. "Welcome to my garden. I understand you've been learning about coffee's importance to humans." "Yes," said Zixtral. "We find it fascinating how central this plant is to human culture and function." Keith smiled. "These plants are my special responsibility. Every human outpost and colony makes growing coffee a priority. These particular specimens represent varieties from Earth's equatorial regions." He led them closer to the plants. "Each coffee variety has unique characteristics, different flavors, different caffeine levels, different growing requirements. We've transported coffee seeds to every human settlement across 17 star systems." Nevri's antennae twitched with interest. "Such dedication to a single plant species is remarkable. On my world, we would not expend such resources for a non-essential crop." Keith's expression became serious. "Non-essential? I wouldn't say that. Coffee is—" He was interrupted by a loud alarm. A red light flashed above the plant enclosure. "Pathogen alert in Section C," announced a computerized voice. "Containment protocols engaged." Keith's face went pale. He rushed to a nearby control panel and checked the readings. No, he muttered. "Not the coffee garden." The aliens watched in surprise as the normally quiet botanist transformed. His voice became commanding, and his movements quick and precise. "Martinez, get me the emergency response team," Keith ordered. "Tell them we have a potential coffee rust outbreak, priority level 1. Olivia immediately used her communicator to relay the message. Within minutes, the botany section filled with staff wearing protective gear. They moved with urgent purpose, setting up equipment around the coffee plants. "Coffee rust?" asked Klondar quietly. "Is this dangerous to the station?" "Not to us," Olivia explained. "But it's a fungal disease that attacks coffee plants. It can destroy entire crops if not contained quickly." The aliens observed with growing amazement as the emergency response unfolded. Staff members carefully examined each plant, taking samples and applying treatments. Others set up additional containment fields and enhanced air filtration. Commander Wright himself arrived to assess the situation. "Status report, Rogers?" demanded. "Early detection, sir," Keith replied. "We've identified the spores on 2 plants. Containment measures are in place, and we're preparing to treat all specimens with the fungicide protocol." "Casualties?" the commander asked grimly. "We might lose the Colombian Arabica, but the others should survive if treatment works." The commander nodded solemnly. "Do whatever is necessary. I've authorized emergency resources. The station can operate on reduced power in non-essential areas if you need additional energy for the plant preservation systems." The alien trainees exchanged shocked glances. "They are diverting station resources for plants?" whispered Nevri. "This response exceeds protocols for minor life support failures." "These are not just any plants," Olivia reminded them. "This is coffee we're talking about." For the next 3 hours, the aliens watched the emergency operation with fascination. Keith, who had seemed so mild-mannered before, directed the team with impressive authority. His knowledge of plant diseases and treatments was extensive, and his concern for the coffee plants went far beyond professional duty. By the time the crisis was contained, the mild-mannered botanist had demonstrated leadership skills that would impress any military commander. "The plants will recover," Keith announced finally, wiping sweat from his brow. "We caught it early enough." The relief among the humans was palpable. Several staff members actually cheered. "I believe," said Zixtral quietly to his fellow trainees, "we have witnessed something more significant than a simple gardening emergency." Indeed, agreed Klondar. For humans, coffee is not just a drink or a plant, it appears to be a cornerstone of their civilization. 3 weeks into their training program, Olivia suggested that the alien trainees should try human foods and beverages. This was standard practice in diplomatic training, helping non-humans understand Earth culture through direct experience. Today, we will start with coffee, Olivia announced, leading them to a small private dining room. Every diplomat should understand this essential element of human interaction. The 3 trainees exchanged nervous glances. They had spent weeks observing humans consuming this strange brown liquid, but the idea of trying it themselves made them uneasy. "Is it safe for our species?" asked Zixtral, his gills fluttering with concern. "Good question," said Olivia. "That's why I asked our xenobiologist to join us." A woman in a white lab coat entered the room. "I'm Dr. Laura Bennett," she introduced herself. "I've studied the effects of Earth substances on various alien physiologies." Dr. Bennett placed a tablet on the table and pulled up detailed diagrams of each trainee's biology. "We need to be careful with dosages," she explained. "Caffeine affects different species in very different ways." For the next hour, the doctor and Zixtral worked together to calculate safe amounts of coffee for each alien. As the medical specialist of the group, Zixtral understood the complex biochemical interactions Dr. Bennett described. For Klondar, the crystalline structure should actually buffer the caffeine effects, explained the doctor. "We can try a quarter cup." For Nevri, we must be extremely cautious, added Zixtral. The insectoid nervous system may be highly sensitive to this insecticide compound. They agreed on a tiny droplet for Nevrii, diluted in water. For Zixtral himself, they settled on a tablespoon mixed with a special neutralizing agent to protect his amphibian metabolism. When the preparations were complete, Olivia served each alien their customized coffee experience. Klondar went first, lifting the small cup with his crystalline fingers. "The aroma is complex," he noted, light shifting through his translucent form. He took a small sip. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Petrosian began to glow more brightly, colors shifting rapidly through his crystalline body. "Fascinating," he exclaimed, his normal monotone voice suddenly animated. "My thought patterns are accelerating. I can process multiple calculation streams simultaneously." Dr. Bennett monitored him closely. The caffeine appears to enhance the electrical conductivity between his crystal matrices. It's acting as a temporary cognitive enhancer. Next came Zixtral's turn. The Aqualian carefully sipped his diluted mixture. His skin changed color slightly, darkening to a deeper blue. "I feel a slight increase in heart rate," he reported calmly. "Not unpleasant, but notable. I can see why humans might find this stimulating effect useful." Finally, it was Nevri's turn. The Vesperi looked nervously at the tiny droplet of coffee in her water. "Our calculations suggest this is 1/50th of a normal human dose," assured Dr. Bennett. "It should be perfectly safe." Nevri touched her proboscis to the liquid and took the smallest possible taste. Everyone watched carefully. Nothing happened for 5 seconds. Then 10. Nevri's antennae twitched slightly. "I do not feel any," she began, then suddenly stopped. Her forearms began to move rapidly. Her compound eyes seemed to focus and unfocus quickly. Her wings, normally kept folded against her back, buzzed briefly. "Oh," she exclaimed. "Oh my, this is... She didn't finish her sentence. Instead, she darted from her chair and began moving around the room at incredible speed. "Nevri," called Zixtral in concern. "Are you well?" "Never better," she replied, her voice higher and faster than normal. "My thoughts are so clear. I have so many ideas." Dr. Bennett checked her instruments. "Her metabolism is running at 10 times normal speed. It appears the caffeine is exponentially more potent in her system than we calculated." Before anyone could stop her, Nevri darted out the door and disappeared down the hallway. "Should we be concerned?" asked Klondar, still glowing with his own milder caffeine enhancement. Olivia tapped her communicator. "Security, this is Martinez. We have a situation." An insectoid trainee has had an unexpected reaction to coffee. Please monitor, but do not attempt to restrain. 3 hours later, they found Nevri in one of the station's storage areas. In her caffeine-fueled hyperactivity, she had completely reorganized the entire deck's supply system, installed new shelving. She had somehow manufactured from spare parts and labeled everything in both human and Vesperi script. When the caffeine finally wore off, she had no memory of her incredible burst of productivity. "I believe," said Olivia with a sigh, "we have just witnessed the first case of an alien coffee addiction." 4 weeks into their stay, the alien trainees noticed a change in the station's atmosphere. The normally cheerful humans seemed tense and irritable. Lines at the coffee stations grew longer. Arguments broke out over minor issues. Even Olivia seemed less patient during their morning briefings. "Is there some sort of human holiday approaching?" asked Klondar. "A period of ritualized conflict, perhaps?" Olivia sighed heavily. "No. We're experiencing supply chain issues. The transport ship bringing our monthly coffee shipment is delayed by an ion storm. We're running low on reserves." The aliens exchanged concerned glances. They had witnessed humans' dependency on coffee, but hadn't considered what might happen if the supply was threatened. Later that day, Commander Wright called an all-hands meeting. His face was grim as he addressed the staff. "As you know, the USS Franklin is delayed. Current estimates suggest it won't arrive for another 10 days. Our coffee supplies will be exhausted in 3 days at normal consumption rates." A wave of whispers and groans swept through the crowd. "Therefore," continued the commander, "effective immediately, coffee rationing is in effect. Each crew member will receive 1 cup per day until supplies are replenished." The announcement produced more reaction than when the station had faced an oxygen recycler malfunction the previous month. Some humans looked genuinely distressed. Others immediately began whispering to colleagues, making what appeared to be private arrangements. Over the next few days, the alien trainees observed fascinating behavioral changes throughout the station. Humans began hoarding their coffee allotments. Some drank only half their daily ration, saving the rest for later. Others sought creative ways to stretch their supplies. "They are developing a black market," noted Nevri as they watched 2 humans in a corner of the mess hall. One discreetly passed a small package to the other, who handed over what looked like a dessert portion in exchange. "Those with private reserves are trading for favors and luxury items," said Zixtral. Classic resource scarcity response. Most interesting to the trainees was how the coffee shortage affected work patterns. Humans began scheduling their most important tasks immediately after consuming their daily ration, when their focus was sharpest. One afternoon, they encountered Chief Engineer Peter Garcia in a maintenance tunnel. He was hunched over a strange contraption made of pipes and filters. "What are you building, Chief Garcia?" asked Klondar politely. Garcia jumped, then relaxed when he saw it was only the trainees. "Oh, just a little project. Nothing official." Zixtral examined the device. "This appears to be designed to process used coffee grounds for a second extraction cycle." Garcia's eyes widened. "Keep your voice down. This is, let's call it an unauthorized efficiency improvement." "You are reusing disposed coffee waste?" asked Nevri, her antennae twitching in disgust. "Desperate times," shrugged Garcia. "The second brew is weak, but it's better than nothing." As the shortage continued, the aliens discovered more creative solutions. They found Lieutenant Powell growing mushrooms that, when dried and brewed, produced a bitter drink with mild stimulant properties. Science Officer Nelson had rigged his lab equipment to concentrate the caffeine from tea leaves, creating a potent extract he added to hot water. Most surprising was their discovery of several unauthorized hydroponics closets throughout the station. Small coffee plants grew under artificial lights in these hidden spaces. When they mentioned this to Olivia, she wasn't surprised. "Personal coffee gardens are technically against regulations," she explained. "But Security Officer Chen has a don't ask, don't tell policy about them. She has one herself." "Will these humans face disciplinary action for breaking rules?" asked Klondar. Olivia laughed. "For growing emergency coffee? Never. Some regulations are less important than morale." On the 7th day of the shortage, they witnessed a touching moment of human solidarity. Ambassador Miller, who they knew had maintained a private reserve of premium coffee beans, walked into the mess hall during lunch. She carried a large container which she placed on the central table. "My private stock," she announced. "I'm donating it to the common supply. We'll all get through this together." Other humans with hidden reserves followed her example. Soon a significant new supply had been pooled for general distribution. "Fascinating," whispered Zixtral to his fellow trainees. "Humans will break rules and hoard resources individually during a shortage, but when the situation becomes dire enough, they shift to collective survival strategies." "I am beginning to understand," said Nevri, "that coffee is more than a chemical dependency for humans. It is a social bond." On the final day of their training program, the 3 alien trainees gathered in their shared quarters. Their bags were packed for departure, but they had one last task to complete. "Is the gift ready?" asked Zixtral, adjusting his breathing. Collar Klondar nodded, light shifting through his crystalline form. "The project is complete. It exceeds our expectations. The humans will be surprised," said Nevri, her antennae twitching with excitement. 2 months had passed since they first arrived on Earth. In that time, they had witnessed humans at their best and worst, all through the lens of their relationship with coffee. They had seen how this simple beverage shaped human society, diplomacy, and even crisis management. When the coffee shortage finally ended with the arrival of the USS Franklin, the aliens had already begun working on their special project. They wanted to thank their hosts in a meaningful way, a way that showed true understanding of human culture. That afternoon, the station's conference room filled with human staff for the graduation ceremony. Commander Wright and Ambassador Miller sat at the front. Olivia stood nearby, ready to present the trainees with their diplomatic certification. "Before we begin the formal ceremony," announced Zixtral, "we wish to present a gift to our human hosts." The 3 aliens unveiled a large container. Inside was a plant unlike anything the humans had seen before. It resembled a coffee plant, but its leaves had a slight crystalline sheen, and its berries were larger and more abundant than normal. "This is a hybrid coffee plant," explained Klondar. "I have incorporated elements of Petrosian crystal growth techniques into Earth coffee. Genetics." The station's botanist, Keith Rogers, leaned forward with obvious excitement. "How did you manage this? Cross-species hybridization at this level should be impossible." "For most species, yes," said Klondar. "But Petrosians share information through crystal structures, not unlike how your DNA stores data. With help from your genetics lab, we found a way to transfer growth patterns." Nevri stepped forward. "This plant grows 3 times faster than standard coffee. My contribution was to enhance its resistance to diseases and pests, based on my understanding of insectoid immune responses. And I modified its chemical production," added Zixtral. "The caffeine molecule is now more stable and bioavailable to human physiology. This means less waste and more effective stimulation per cup." The humans stared in stunned silence. Then Keith rushed forward to examine the plant more closely. "This is revolutionary," he whispered. "Do you understand what you've created? This could transform coffee production across human space." Commander Wright cleared his throat. "This is an extraordinarily generous gift, but I must ask, why coffee? Of all human things you experienced, why focus on this?" The 3 aliens exchanged glances. Zixtral spoke for them all. "When we arrived, we thought we were studying human diplomacy. But we soon realized that to understand humans, we needed to understand coffee. This plant is more than a beverage source to your species. It is a social bond, a cultural cornerstone, a chemical need, and a comfort in difficult times." Nevri nodded. "We witnessed how coffee brings humans together, even when supplies were threatened. We saw competitors become allies over shared cups. And we learned," added Klondar, "that what makes Earth a death world to others is precisely what makes humans remarkable. You take toxins and make them treasures. You find pleasure in what should cause pain. Your adaptability is your greatest strength." Ambassador Miller smiled. "You have learned the true lesson of diplomacy. to see beyond surface differences to the heart of another culture. The graduation ceremony proceeded formally, but ended with a new tradition. Olivia presented each alien trainee with a small metal object. "These are human travel mugs," she explained, "personalized with your names. No matter where your diplomatic careers take you, you'll always have a proper vessel for coffee." As they prepared to board their transport ship, Zixtral looked back. At the Earth Embassy station, he would never view humans the same way again. They were not just the violent, stubborn species from a death world that galactic rumors described. They were complex, adaptive, and remarkably resilient, qualities reflected perfectly in their relationship with a simple being. "Perhaps," he said to his fellow graduates, "we should try another cup before we leave." Nevri's antennae twitched nervously. "A very small cup," Klondar chimed with amusement. "To humans and their coffee," he said, raising his travel mug in the Earth tradition of a toast. "May we never underestimate either again."